All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson McKay.
And today's guest is Kaitlin Klarer. Kaitlin is a sex coach with a master's in counselling and a background in the adult entertainment industry. She's the creator of the hilarious talk show Watch Girls, Watch Porn, and is also an educator on Pornhub's wellness channel. She's passionate about challenging our society's pervasive sex-negative scripts and wants people to view sexuality as a highly diverse and inclusive entity. Her work involves holistic, bi-psychosocial approaches when helping clients achieve their sexual fulfillment and helping individuals and couples with sexual, relational, and intimacy problems. Sex coaching is the process of taking the client's hand and guiding them through to sexual fulfillment, involving a combination of psychoeducation, talking through issues, accessing unallowed emotions, the practice of sexual exercises, home assignments, and a step-by-step progression of sexual techniques. Sex coaching is holistic, non-judgmental, sex-positive, and celebrates the full range of sexual experiences. Sessions are future-focused and goal-orientated, allowing clients to work through sexual blockers and achieve true sexual fulfillment. And now, let's get to the interview. Thank you so much for coming on. You're an absolute star. I love your social media because you just give men the tips and hacks they need for getting better in the bedroom. You don't sugarcoat it. You're a badass. But can you explain who you are? How do you explain what you do? Because it's quite a job to explain to somebody.
So here's the funny thing. There's times where I introduce myself. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Kaitlin, and I'm a sex coach." And people they'll be like, "I'm sorry, what did you say?" Because the words don't make sense to them. Like they heard what I said, but their brain just went, "No, I'm sorry, what?" You do a what now? And so the way that I break it down is that I help couples and I help individuals get better at sex. If they have sexual goals that they want to reach, I help them achieve that. If they have any sexual issues that they're trying to work through, I do that as well.
Because just now, so many guys are like, I don't need any help. I'm brilliant at it. But so many guys have the same problem. It's the focus on thrusting. They don't know how to give. They expect a blowjob, but they will not reciprocate to their partner. Would you see a similarity in what men will come to you about with the kind of issues? Does it change with age, race, with the focus, single versus somebody in a relationship? Or is it just the same men ego issues we need to break?
Same stuff over and over again. You know what? So it is pretty, it definitely depends on the demographic. That being said, if somebody's reaching out to me, they kind of have to be a certain demographic anyway, because anybody who is reaching out to a sex coach is somebody who already has to be a little bit open-minded. There's no way around that, right? If somebody is completely closed off and completely terrified of talking about anything, they're not going to reach out to me, right? So I already, my demographic that I work with is going to be a little bit narrowed because of that. I tend to work with men because most of my marketing actually comes through Pornhub, which is surprising, right? I didn't know that was going to happen. That was like an interesting thing for me. So I'll get into that like super quick. So I have a talk show on Pornhub, and then I also am a sex educator for Pornhub. And so, what did you say, Ian?
As you do.
As you do, as people do, right? And so that was an unexpected avenue for marketing for me. But because Pornhub is a really big driver of my business, a lot of the people that I work with are going to be men, right? And so I do deal with more male issues. So very common things for guys is going to be early ejaculation and then delayed ejaculation. So those are really big things that people would reach out to a sex coach about. People often who are in a coupleship will deal with a thing called a desire discrepancy. So that is where one partner wants either want more sex than the other partner, or they want a different type of sex than the other partner, right? And then we got to figure out, okay, well, how do I handle this? What do I do with this? Thrusting. So not knowing how to please a woman, or just wanting to learn how to be better in the bedroom, how to be a better lover is a big one as well. So you were talking about, like, there are guys who thrust too fast. Yeah. Or just go straight into thrusting. So they talked to me about, okay, well, so what is the land of foreplay? What does it mean to, like, really take your time making out with a person? What does it mean to really be sensual, to go slow, and to really blow their mind? So I like doing that. And probably the last thing that I see a lot is couples who have some type of non-monogamous desire or want to explore that in some way. So relationships are changing drastically, and that is such an interesting and cool thing. They're, for the most part, people only know about monogamy, right? And they're like, okay, monogamy is the only answer, is the only option. Well, there are actually all of these communities of people who are doing things that are different. The same way that, like, there's no gay and straight. There's only, like, most people are on a spectrum, right? Most people are on a spectrum. They're mostly straight, or they're mostly gay, or they're a little gay, they're a little straight, they're what have you. Relationships are on a spectrum, right? And we have the option of relationships being on a spectrum where they can be monogamous, or it could be all the way over to polyamorous, which is multiple loves. Or you could be somewhere in between where you're kind of like monogamish, which is where you're monogamous, but then you flirt with other people. But then, or you could be in an open relationship where, you're with one person, but then you sleep with some other people. There are all of these different options out there. And that is a really confusing thing to navigate and to figure out. So to talk to somebody like me in the process of that can be really cool. And the reason why I really like working with that demographic too is that I am in that demographic, right? I'm in an open relationship with my husband, and it has been a challenging thing to kind of figure out. And so I like being able to help work people through that.
It's amazing, like, when you think about it, because you can talk about politics, we can talk about religion. I know you're not meant to do it in the workplace, but a lot of people do. Sure. You can talk about your beliefs and this and that, but when it comes to sex, whoa, back away, hide that, put that in a box. I mean, I assumed I was normal, but when I look at these terms, I'm like, I don't mind a bit of that play, don't mind a bit of that. I've done BDSM, had a threesome, It's like, but that's normal, isn't it? Just experiment. And then I realized how a lot of people are shaped by their culture. They're shaped by their parental attitudes towards sex, or how much they've been allowed to express their character and things like that. And I mean, you've got a master's in counselling. Do you find that a lot of the issues is that there's a lack of intimacy, there's a lack of connection, but there's also a lack of being ourselves and expressing who you are truthfully in the bedroom?
Perfect. Yeah. So when it comes to connection, that is a very, very difficult thing for people to achieve, because in order to be connected to another person, you have to be able to explain your wants and your needs. But communication is so challenging. Like, it's honestly, it's shocking to me that anybody understands what the other person says ever, because if I'm trying to tell my partner, like, hey, I don't, I don't like it when you're too rough in the bedroom. But I have to be aware with that inside myself. I have to know, like, oh yeah, they were a little bit too rough when they pushed me against a wall. But I actually really liked it when they, when they were rough, when they choked me a little bit. So you have to have an internal awareness of all of these things, and then you have to be able to convey it. And then when your partner hears this information, they're filtering everything through their entire life experience, right? So they don't just hear what you said. They hear what you said, and then within the filter of their life and their and everything else. So they like the fact that people are able to communicate and really hear and understand one another is amazing when it does happen, but it also is so challenging. There's so many small pieces that can get lost along the way. So, you asked about connection. Yeah, it's really the biggest thing to being able to connect is being able to communicate with them. And, it's a difficult thing that we're not taught in our world. We're not taught in our society. So yeah, I think it's a huge part.
I love that kind of styling because so many people think we're just set the way we are. That however you're going to have sex is just that's it. They don't know they can explore and stuff like. I mean, I think one of the things we need to realize is the old traditional rules of sex have completely gone out the window, or maybe we're now being more open about it. Because I remember hearing for the first time years ago, women are they need the emotional. It's more about how you make them feel. Where for men, they get turned on and stimulated more by the physical side. Women need it to be the emotional, the kind of the build up of the. So I used to love going down on girls and doing this and that, and you play with like taking away the sight with blindfolds and things like that. And people like, well, no, I don't do any of that. We'll barely kiss when they're outside. No PDAs. And I thought, what? Why on earth? But I think it's down to that person. Do you think we need to scrap the rule book for sex nowadays and be more open and free?
I do. I think that scrapping the rule book is a huge one, right? It takes being able to be in touch with what you really want. What do you really desire? So the fact that you are really desiring pleasuring your partner, that is a thing that really works for you. You get them off and that gets you off. That is a very that is a very cool, that's a very sexy thing. That being said, everybody has their own preferences. So, there are people out there who really don't want to make out, right? They're like, hey man, that's not that, like, I don't like cuddling. I don't want to make out. And that's okay too, right? So whatever your preferences, go out and find somebody else who also wants that preference, right? And so there's kind of there's a balancing act between, okay, so the person who doesn't want to ever kiss their partner, do they need to change a little bit to meet the needs of the person that they're with, right? So they don't want to make out, but maybe they should do a little bit of it. It kind of depends on how much you vibe with that person, because there's also the option that there's somebody else out there who really doesn't want to make out either. And then they met you and they're like, oh, thank God, I hate doing that. So it's really figuring out what you need.
Now, I read somewhere that you used to be a stripper.
Yes.
Was it for 8 years? Now, I find I love speaking to people who have kind of unique job roles and stuff. But how did you find that kind of transition from your views on sex when you were younger to suddenly, when you went stripping, where men would see, you've seen maybe the lower class of men at times where they saw you as like a tool to get off on, to then the transition to becoming a sex coach? Because I interviewed Alice Little. She was one of the most successful legal prostitutes in a brothel in, I think it was Las Vegas.
Cool.
Absolute lovely, beautiful person, but she would said she would go to the doctors, and because of her line of work, they would assume it's a sex act that had gone wrong, when it turned out to be appendicitis. There was all these kind of insanity things. Did you find
Yeah.
did you find that different? What was your views on people in that industry, and how do you think it changed your opinions and what people are attracted to? And did it shape you in any way? And then did it move you towards becoming a coach? It's maybe badly worded, but did it affect your views on sex and how people are attracted and what we get off by?
Yeah. No, that's a great question, Ian. And yes, yeah. So working at the club shaped my worldview more than I expected it to. So I had no intention of being a stripper. So I did it late in life. I had always had all these really negative stereotypes about it. Like anybody who works in that industry has got family issues or they're using drugs. Like those were the only options in my mind. And I met a girl who was a dancer, and she was a friend of mine, and she was a burlesque performer, and I was doing burlesque at the time. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, burlesque is like fine because that's classy, that's art.
Yep.
You don't want to like make money from from getting naked on stage, right? And so I met this girl who was a burlesque performer, and she danced, and she was cool. I liked her, and I was like, okay, well, what is this? And I went to the strip club, and for the first time ever in my life, I was old. Like I was 25. I think it was 23, 25, something like that. I was finishing graduate school, right? So this was not on this was a very quick stop on my way to go get like a normal career, right? But man, when I started the first day I went there, I was like, oh my God, this is what a strip club is? Like, this is, first of all, it was a really upscale place, right? So I'm a little bit biased based off of that. It's owned by a woman, all those kind of things. Anyway, I loved everything about it. So I started working, and I was like, shit, this, I am already curious about what people think and what people feel. Like that's genuine, with my counseling background, right? But then once I got to be a dancer, and then just I got to open up people's heads in a way, not those heads, these heads, I got to open them up, and then really, Ian, you said something?
No, I was just laughing. I was just saying, that's the tagline for this. That's going to be the tagline, definitely.
Yeah. And so it was absolutely fascinating to me. And it gave me a really interesting confidence in my body and in my ability to stand up for myself. Because it's a difficult environment. You'll hear the worst things, and you'll also see the best things. So it's very polarizing because people are fucked up, right? And I was working, so I was sober, right? So at the first couple of years I drank a lot, and then I was like, nope. And then I was completely sober for most of the time that I was there. Anyway, so I got to hear people saying really good things, and then also really bad things about me. And it made it to where I was like, wow, this is I was always a little self-conscious about the fact that I kind of look like a boy. Like I look like and this is not a negative thing, but I'm a little boyish body type, right? Very I'm athletic. I've got slender hips. I've got small breasts. But the fact that I was able to still make good money based off of a body that I didn't always love, it was a very, very empowering thing for me. It also felt empowering to be able to just kind of live in my sexuality, right? And be able to profit from that. And it was a very interesting thing. One of the most interesting things that I learned from the whole experience is that there's a person for every person, right? So my small tits worked. Somebody else's, being after being, like a woman who just had a baby, right? And she's got a bit of a belly. There are people who like her. There are people who like the A+ models. And it doesn't like, that was cool to me to be able to see, like, it didn't matter. You didn't have to be perfect. There's somebody who's going to fucking pay a lot of money for that person and these people.
Oh, yeah.
And oh man, mind blowing to me. That was all like very cool.
Look at OnlyFans. You know, I mean, how much money will people pump into certain? You know, there's a look for everybody, shall we say? Now, I mean, I'm very open, do a lot of degrading and out there shit to some people, but I have a dislike towards OnlyFans because there's certain things about it I don't like about how they take the money from models, and some people it's not helping a lot of people that are using it. It's like getting the confidence there. Now that's probably misconstrued because I've not interviewed anybody from that work yet, but I have no problems with people doing sex work. I mean, Alice is amazing. I've interviewed her twice now. And it's that kind of thing in my head. I was thinking, oh, that's strange. I can remember going to a strip club with some friends on a night out, and this girl, she was throwing her fanny in everybody's face and tits rubbing in people's faces. She'd walk off the stage and hand her boyfriend the money. He was just sitting with a pint, and then they would walk off and started kissing. He didn't care. And
yeah.
I was like, whoa, fuck, I couldn't do that. That's just terrifying. Oh. And I was in my head going, so that's maybe an issue I have, my own jealousy. That's maybe me not being able to embrace myself in that area. That's maybe my issue with OnlyFans, is because I have, something about people being more sexually open than I've been. Or, when you look into this, you start thinking, okay, maybe that's stemming from something in myself, what you dislike. Sure. Do you find that with people, this mainly comes from not being able to embrace our sexuality, not being able to embrace our desires, kind of hiding that side of us?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Because we don't talk about sex, we don't have any language inside of our brains to go like, oh man, like I really, like, I'm straight, and I also I really get off on wearing women's panties. What does that mean about me? And we don't have, like, our culture doesn't allow for us to go, oh, well, okay, maybe we don't have to have maybe that doesn't mean anything, right? Maybe it like, if we have a desire, it's always attached to, oh shit, what does this mean about me? So like, if I, if I'm a woman who mostly identifies as straight, but every now and then I kind of want to make out with a girl, people will be like, oh my God, does this mean I'm bisexual? Does this mean that it doesn't matter. You don't have to figure everything out with our desires. And we don't have to, like, put constraints on it. But I think that that's part of the reason why people are afraid to explore desires, is because they go, oh my God, if I start talking about this, then it's going to jump to all of these other conclusions. If I say that I want a threesome, then this allows for my boyfriend to potentially walk off with the other man, or to, or what have you. People can kind of escalate because they get scared.
It's definitely a difficult one, because I find you have to, a lot of it stems from yourself, your personal confidence, because a lot of people don't believe they deserve it. I mean, do you find that a lot of people kind of cock block themselves by mentally thinking, we let the ego dictate that, we've got to be the man in the relationship. We can't be pegged. We can't be, feminized. We can't do role play where the girl's in the superior role. Do you find a lot of men kind of are restricting themselves for the type of sex that they're allowing themselves to have, or even to try, because of these traditional values of masculinity, perhaps?
Yeah, no, definitely. And the first thing I started thinking about when you started talking or you started asking that question is that I don't have you noticed that it seems like there are way more women who identify as bisexual than guys are?
100%.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any opinion on like what you think that is?
Probably that women are actually realizing to get good sex, they have to, women understand them, where men, it's, I don't know, not sure to be honest.
I, so my hypothesis on that, and Ian, I think you're right. I think that like when it comes to women realizing that other women are going to get it better, I think that that's definitely part of it. I think a big part of it though is that guys just have so much baggage around if you find another guy attractive, what does that mean about you? There's so much, whereas for women there's anti baggage. Actually, there's celebration around women who make out with other women and explore other women. Like that's hot and people like it and people talk about it all the time. So it makes it significantly easier for girls to go, I'm bi. Yeah. I mostly
Yeah.
like guys or I mostly like women, but I like to be in between. Whereas guys, there's too much baggage for them to even kind of like peer into that. And so I think that is very similar to what you were asking about. Like, do guys cock block themselves by having societal scripts? Absolutely. Yeah. And really
Let's,
the only way that go ahead.
oh, sorry, I was going to just say that I suppose it's also about the sexualization of women. You know, that you're hot, you're cute, you're beautiful, where a guy is masculine, strong, leader. You know, where women are like, oh, look at her, you know, she's rocking that dress, where guys are like, he's wearing a suit from Calvin Klein. You know, you're meant to be looked at and judged by your sex appeal because the whole
Sure.
provider routine and stuff like that. But with men, it's like how we dominate. With women, it's what you give up. You know what I mean? It's strange. Look how the media portrays men versus women.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting topic.
Well, which is crazy. And then we go into like this whole flexible gender role, right? Like everything's getting on a spectrum these days. I kind of fucking love it. We're not living in this binary world. Like even autism, they used to have autism and then Asperger's disease, and they're like, okay, we'll throw that out, and they just put it on the autism spectrum. There's a under like gender identity spectrum. There's a relationship spectrum. There's like we're living in this world where we are able to be different. We can be more gray. We can be more nuanced. And honestly, I think it's because we live in a society where we have more free time. We have more, and we're going to have even more free time with all of this artificial intelligence coming out. Like we're about to like Ian, you're already at the next level. It's about to be the next level with all of that stuff.
So you've got somebody just now who's thinking, do you know what? I deserve better sex. I want to find out. I've been watching, your Miss Klarer on the social media, and I think, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to try a bit of that. How would they start introducing that into the bedroom? Say they're in a relationship. How would you start spicing things up? I mean, it's probably best not to turn up with like a back plug and some anal beads and gimp masks and stuff like that without introducing it. How would you start somebody safely venturing into exploring whatever avenue they're
Yes.
wanting? That
Yeah,
sounded
yeah,
worse
yeah.
than I meant.
What was the last part that you said?
that I probably shouldn't have said exploring avenues because that probably sounded a lot worse than I meant. But it's
Oh no, I think it made sense to me. Yeah, doing a very gradual buildup of how to introduce new things with a partner is, like starting by maybe actually doing education. So I would recommend like maybe playing a podcast in the background, like next level guy, where you have, where you have a third party. It's not you, but it's a third party kind of talking about stuff, right? So that kind of, it slowly opens somebody up a little bit. And also just by starting slow, right? If you just bring something into the bedroom that's just like a notch ahead of where you were. Now, right? If you're in a BDSM sub-dom partnership already, and then you need to bring in more anal beads or like a fucking machine, well, then that's your next level. But if you're kind of more on the vanilla type of route, you can say like, hey, I learned, I'm really interested in our sexuality and exploring our sexuality. I learned this new thing. Is that something that you would be interested in? And, kind of seeing how they do, seeing how that goes. And then playing it gradually.
I'd probably talking about it before you get in the bedroom. Because I think that's what a lot of guys do, is they whip something out and they expect it there and then. So they pressurize the partner. It's kind of scary that even in this day and age, we still have to talk about consent, like what actually is consent, without them feeling like they should to try to please or keep the person. What's your definition or like your kind of way of teaching consent? Because, people think consent's before sex. Consent can be removed during sex, after sex, before. There's so many different levels of it. How do you make sure somebody doesn't stray over the line, or it's everybody's happy? Is that the use of safe words? Is that a cooling off period before something like that would happen after discussions? How would you start introducing consent so everybody's happy and safe in whatever they're doing?
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about two different levels of consent, because there's a BDSM consent where there's going to be safe words. There's going to be more parameters around it, because it can get a little bit more dangerous, right? So that's kind of a different ballgame. I will address that, but I'm going to address the first level of consent, which is around normal sex, like more vanilla types of sex. And honestly, the sexiest way to do this and the best way to do this is to ask in a sexy tone, like, oh my God, do you like, you're so hot. Do you want me to go down on you? Or, oh my God, do you want me to eat? Like, I'd love to eat your asshole. Do you want that? Like, and that is like, that's hot. That is not, honestly, that's adding to that's adding to the experience. It's not, because people get afraid that it's going to take something away. You're not. You're actually making it sexier, because you're describing what you want to do to them, and then they can go, yeah, I'd like that. Like, it's so, and it's easy to do.
So why then, after all these amazing things and all these great resources, do so many guys they emphasize the importance of the penis? They think this is the tool that I throw it in, I get it a bit wet, stick a finger somewhere, kiss, and thrust it in, where, the women want different angles, grinding, different techniques. There's plenty of different oral techniques. There's plenty of different techniques on rimming and things. But why do men still just think, I've got a hard thing, I'm going to stick it in a soft thing? How do we break that stupidity?
Yeah, and there's so many guys who are shocked when I tell them that only 30% of women orgasm from internal stimulation. The 70% will orgasm clitorally, which doesn't necessarily involve a penis, right? This is involving, dry humping, or, maybe like a little bit of penis or a little bit of penetration, and then mostly clitoral stimulation, which is kind of like, you can use fingers, and then you can do some tapping, or you can do like a little bit of inserting of your penis, but not all the way in. And then you kind of tap their clit a little bit. There are so many other ways that women can get off, but I can also kind of feel for guys because, man, it is shocking the variations between what gets women off. I am a female, and there are times, like, it took me researching to really understand, like, whoa, like, people are different. People are so different. Sometimes women want their clit to be touched during sex, who orgasm clitorally, but then some of them don't. They just want it to be like around the clit, right? And then some find it to be painful if the clit is touched too soon. Some want it fast. They want it to be touched directly. So that feels scary to guys because what the fuck? Like, if I'm not sleeping with the same person over and over again, how am I ever going to know? And also, the same person can vary from day to day, right? And from week to week. Are they on their menstrual cycle or not? So Here's the good thing though, guys. You can just ask. You could just ask. How do you get yourself off? Like, how do you orgasm? Like, and then you can mimic that. Have her show you how she does it. That's a hot one, right? So don't sweat if you get scared that she's not going to orgasm from your penis, but also like, just ask her.
I think that's amazing that we go back to just ask them. It's how few men actually think to just go and ask them. They'll talk about it, they'll chat to their friends, they'll potentially lose a partner because of bad sex without just going, do you like when I do that? Would you rather I did that? And that's the terrifying thing about it. And how many guys do you know, they watch porn and think, right, I'm going to do that, where they have no idea what they're doing. I interviewed Kenneth, the sex hacker. I don't know if you know his work.
Love him. Yeah.
He's got a fantastic book, Beyond Satisfied. So he's got actual QR codes, and you can see the 3D imagery of how to do it. And I remember him saying, where was it? It was watching porn to learn sex is like watching the Fast and the Furious to learn how to drive. And I just thought, and he said, well, why would you, like, say if me and you hooked up compared to me and my last girlfriend, I'm not going to use the same moves on you compared to her, because why would I use a map to my ex-girlfriend's house to drive to your house? And I was just kind of like, whoa, it's like, I don't get that. But why? It's going back to, I saw this in porn. This move worked with my ex, so it's going to work with you. Why do men stick in these kind of patterns, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's just because it's easy. We learn a certain thing, and then we just get used to doing it all the time. We learn a certain move at the gym, and we don't think, well, maybe I need to like change my weight up a little bit, or maybe like in order to get stronger at the gym, you have to slowly build. You have to change a little bit. You have to change things up. But yes, you're right. When it comes to sex, sometimes they'll get one idea in their head, and they will just like do the same thing over and over. But like being able to inquire about your next partner and understand that she's a different person makes a huge difference.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
And how would you then start getting the guys to be able to go and speak to their partner? How do you develop kind of more open conversation? Because this can start going into an area where, somebody might say, yeah, I would go down on you, but I don't like your smell. Or, you're doing it wrong if you're caring about the smell. But or somebody would say, oh, what are you into? And she might say, I want you to tie me up, whip my arse and do whatever. And a lot of men don't understand what women actually crave, that they do like rough sex. They do like more out there stuff. A lot of times it's the quieter ones that are actually the more terrifying ones. But how do you get them to chat about it and embrace them and open up about our sexuality? Not what the woman thinks the guy wants, but what they actually want. That women deserve great sex. How do we get them to understand that as well in a relationship?
And you were doing the world a good service by being able to help guys learn how to treat women better, about how to fuck them better. Like, this is it's always good to be able to have somebody who's like, how do we do this? How do we get better? Wait, I forgot what was the question.
Well, it's more, yeah. I mean, how do I explain what I want to do to you, but I want you to come back and say, well, actually, no, I'm not really into that. But what I do want you to do is go and take me in the toilets in, I don't know, the local shop, or I want to go dogging, or whatever it is. How do we not shy away from true desires, but also not have somebody feel like, I want to keep them, so I'm going to avoid this?
Sure. So I think that one of the best ways to just start approaching explaining your desires is by, especially, okay, I'm going to start with a human who is nervous about sex in general, because most people are, right? And so to be able to talk to your partner and say, hey, honestly, I feel a little bit weird about talking about this. I'm kind of afraid that you're going to judge me. But I wanted to tell you that I have fantasies about you tying me up. Is that something that you would be interested in? Like, and then to explain, take it a next level further than that, of explain why you find it sexy. Because sometimes people will hear like, oh, he wants me to tie him up. What does that mean? Does he want me to, does he want me to like degrade him and tell him that he's the worst man on the planet, or that, he's going to make me get a strap on and suck his cock, or, people can jump to all of these different ideas in their head. So if you can be specific of, hey, I feel nervous bringing this up. And specifically, I like the idea of you tying me up because I like the concept of being held down and you being in charge. That feels very sexy to me. I like the idea of power play switch. So that is one of the best ways to actually get heard. And you mentioned, talking to, so like a guy talking to their girlfriend about not wanting to go down on them because they smell, right? That's a real thing. And so to bring that up in a way of not like, hey, you stink, you need to, I'm not going to go down on you. Just bring up like, hey, baby, I've noticed that your smell is a little bit more pungent recently, because that actually could mean she might have a bacterial infection too, yeah. Right? So don't like you harboring this information and just saying like, oh, I don't want to tell her. She could it could be like, I know for me, if I have bacterial vaginosis, that shit stinks. And my husband has said like, hey, I've noticed that you're smelling different. And I'm like, oh yeah, I need to go. Like, I think, or maybe it's a yeast infection or something like that. So actually bringing it up could be a helpful thing to her, but also it can feel scary, it can feel delicate, but if you just tell her like, hey, I really do, like, I find you sexy, I want to go down on you, I've noticed that your smell is a little bit different, or maybe you just suggest taking a shower before you have sex. Just say, baby, I want to shower with you. Like, that would be really sexy. Let's shower each other, and then go into the bedroom. So that's an easy way around it as
Because
well.
I find that weird that like guys will not say to somebody that they love, like, are you okay? You're smelling a bit different. Because I know there's thousands of different ways that things change the chemical reactions, the time of the time of the month, the diet, etc. But guys seem to think we're indestructible. It's like our diet affects how our sperm tastes. So women say, "Oh, eat more pineapple." We go, "How dare you?" But we're to say to a woman, "No, I'm not going down on you because you smell." It's this kind of selfish, egocentric, and guys, we're not perfect. I mean, a lot of girls go, "I don't want to go down there, but that's my duty. That's what's expected of me." And I think we need to get out of that where we're not just kings to be pleasured. And there's so many amazing things like I've used. Oh my god, yes, that they actually real women teaching you how to pleasure themselves. Kenneth Play's sex hacker thing. The Beyond Satisfied book he has. There's so many. I mean, I've got a sex kit box full of stuff, and I just find it so funny that you wouldn't say to somebody that you love, "Sorry, but I don't like the way you're doing blowjobs." So you're going to spend years having bad sex because you just won't admit to somebody who maybe likes to do something different, doesn't like doing the way she did, but she thought you liked it. Why can't we not just be civilized adults and say, I would love if you did something to my ass. I would love if you did X, if you did Y, whatever it is. Why why are we not grown up? We can share a house, buy a car, have kids together, but we can't say what we want to do when we're lying in a bed with each other. I don't get that. Do you see reasons people give for why they hold back?
It's funny that you're talking about specifically like a scenario of a guy being like not liking his wife's blowjobs, but they do it for years upon years because he's never brought it up. He's never talked about it. He's never said anything. Because I've had clients who've said literally the exact same thing. They're like, man, my wife, she just can't give a blowjob to save her life. And I'm like, well, okay, well, what did you tell her? How did you give her feedback? And he was like, oh, I would never do that. And it's like that, it's because it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable. If we give someone our perspective on them, then that means that they see that I can't just like, I'm not perfect, right? Because I have a different opinion than you. And it means that that person could retaliate and they could say, well, you've never done blah, blah, blah. And and then it turns into this escalation thing. Where it's just scary for humans to talk about our wants if we weren't properly trained on how to do that. And most people are not. And Ian, you have had to go out of your way to learn how to do these things. And if we don't go out of our way to learn, then that's how we stay in that place of just of being afraid.
Because I used to, when I was younger, I remember I used to look up, like when I get a new partner, how to hit the G spot with a come here when you're fingering inside, or how to use X, or, this method and that technique. And there was all these amazing things. Like there used to be a series called Two Girls Teach Sex, where the guy would talk about it, sort of like how you do it mentally and all that stuff. And then they would actually show the videos of them literally fucking and showing, and the guy would talk you through it and how he was doing it and what she was feeling, and it was amazing to actually see it in real time. And that's what I loved about porn now, that it's kind of opened up, because a lot of men think, maybe a lot of partners think it's culturally against the norm. It's a taboo to do certain things, like a guy to dress up in his, like you were saying, his women's underwear. Whereas it might be somebody thinks, I couldn't go and have sex outside, but I would love to do it. Or I can't do X or that. But I think porn's opening up now that there's so many areas of porn. Do you find that from your show that it's really helping people now embrace and try new things?
Yes. So there are pros and cons to porn. So porn is basically like alcohol. People can have a drinking problem, but then there are also people who can have alcohol with wine once per night, and it's a nice relaxer for them, or they drink it socially and it's adds to their life. So porn is the same thing. It's dangerous in some hands, but then it can be really helpful in other hands. So one of the ways that it can be really beneficial is by opening up people's knowledge about different ways that they can have sex. And the fact that there's so much amateur porn out there is even better, because they get to see that their neighbors can fuck outside, or they're like people at the grocery store, like they can fuck in the bathroom, or and they can see this in real life. And so amateur porn is the most popular search porn, that and then lesbians for the most part. But amateur porn stuff, because people like being able to see real humans fucking. And so it is really expanding people's ability to understand that, oh my God, like I always wanted a threesome, and I've, look at all of these normal people. They're normal people who are having threesomes, who are uploading these different things. And so I think that it is encouraging people to try different things, but also, it's also encouraging things like deep throating, right? Which is a different type of thing, but it's more theatrical. It's more theatrical than it is like really, pleasurable. Same thing with squirting, but squirting, it can feel really good for some people. For some people, it's just a party trick. So it's good to have different perspectives on different types of sex, but it's also good to know, like, oh, but some of this is not always the most realistic.
Yeah, I mean, especially things like ass to mouth, or ass straight, like putting it in somebody's ass and then putting it straight into somebody's pussy, because of the bacterial infections and stuff. They act like this is all normal and stuff, and somebody goes, I'm going to try that, and then gives their partner a yeast infection, or seriously hurts them because they try to choke them without warning. And I just, yes, it's a great help, but like you're saying, there needs to be that kind of understanding and openness and ability to chat to people. Do you think then, to help a lot of men listening to this, the best thing to do is to go and have sex, but remove the end goal? Work on the intimacy, work on exploring each other, feeling the vibe, just focusing on the journey rather than the destination. Just explore her body, your body, see where it kind of naturally leads. Is it a good way to remove the orgasms, to just put no pressure on it?
Yeah, definitely. And by that can also relieve both sides, because sometimes for women, I know for me, it's really hard for me to orgasm. And so sometimes if I'm having sex with a new person and they're like, oh man, I want you to come, I'm like, hey, like, don't put that on me. I don't always need it to happen. Right. But oftentimes if orgasm is, kind of like in the background, it's not the number one agenda, then orgasm can come a little bit more easily. And it's a good thing for guys, because they're able to just explore sensation. So this is essentially what Tantra is. Sometimes people don't they hear the word Tantra sex specifically, and they don't really know. They think that it means like some like calling on woo woo stuff and spirits or what have you. I don't know. But tantric sex is literally just hyper focusing on the moment. What is your skin feeling? What does your partner taste like? How can you breathe with your partner? How can you what are the sights that you're seeing? What are you hearing? What are her moaning sounds? Like, pay attention to the five senses very intensely. And that's tantra. That's all it is. It's being in the moment and not having a goal, which can lead to the most fire, the most exciting stuff.
Because wasn't it Sting that came out and said he had 8-hour sex romps with his partner? Oh no, his
Yes.
wife. And I remember everybody saying, that's impossible. And they're like, well, it is when you're just enjoying being with each other. You're not racing to get off. You're actually just wanting to be with them and explore and enjoy I feel like, oh, okay, maybe there is more to this. And I love that you look out into these areas and you open up that, it doesn't mean you're gay if you're getting pegged. It doesn't mean, because a lot of men, oh no, I wouldn't let anybody touch my bum, for example. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's where the male prostrate is. That is the male G spot.
Yeah.
And a lot of women want to do some very, very twisted shit. They're happy, they're into it. They want to push themselves. And you have this great show where you meet porn stars and you watch sex. You've worked with all these thousands of couples, etc. What would surprise us about women's sexual desire from all the people you've talked to? Because we all think, oh, they're prune, they don't want to do this. And then as you start getting to know women, you go, fucking hell, she's worse than I am. Once you get them open and looking to experience what they want in life, what would surprise us about what should we know as men about what women really want?
Wow, that one's a head scratcher.
Because I've been asked for some crazy stuff when I think back, and I'm thinking if I hadn't been maybe the way I was and open to it, but I think a lot of guys think, no, she wouldn't be into that. Where when you ask them when they're drunk, oh god, they're into that.
Yeah. And so I think that you brought up a really important point. Is that you said once you get somebody open, once you get comfortable with somebody, then that's when you get to start learning more about them. You get to see more exciting things. So like when people are aroused, men and women, different things feel like things that might sound kind of like weird or revolting when you're not aroused feel really fucking sexy when you are aroused. So if you're taking the time to really get her revved up and really get her like you warmed her up for 40 fucking minutes. You've been slowly caressing everything. And she's now at the point of where she's really horny. She's ready. You already gave her 2 orgasms. She's ready for this. She may want you to spit on her. She may want you to choke her. She may want you to fucking pee on her. You don't like they're when people get to that point of arousal, the things that feel sexy to them get more intense. And so the key really is to just understand that you got to work her up to get to that place of exploring different things. So women can be just as crazy, can be just as kinky, but they're like, we're cats. We need warming up. We need to like, and if you go too hard, if you try too hard for something, we're going to run away. We're going to do our own thing. But like guys will be these dogs where they'll just like, right. So as long as you just kind of understand that women need this warming up, we're standoffish. We need that. And if you do it, then we're going to want some shit that you could be shocked by.
Because that kind of leads me perfectly into the next question is, how does orgasms change for men versus women, because a lot of guys I know, they say, once I've pumped, I go off to sleep. I'm knackered, I'm tired. Whereas for a lot of women, that's just the entree, that's the starter, that's the wee basic. They're then ready for more sex. They're then ready for more pleasure. But men seem to treat it as that's it done. And yes, we can work on our physical health to be better, more stamina in bed, and more cardio and things like that. But how do we need to see like orgasms versus women? Because in our head, as we're getting close, men have a tendency to speed up because the sensitivity comes in, they get the feelings, they don't have control as much. Where a woman wants to keep the same, maybe more pressure, but keep the same speed, because they're in their head and they need to get the sensation. How should we see orgasms as men and understand what a female perspective of an orgasm and what it leads to is?
Yeah. Yeah. You are right. For most men to orgasm, they speed up. They do the speeding up thing. And so in their mind, they think that when their girlfriend is about to come, they got speed up. They do, and for the most part, women need consistency. You sped up, and now you went over the orgasm. You missed it. Now she's like, "Fuck that! That doesn't work for me." But there are women who do actually like a speeding up. It's a minority of women, but there are some. So again, this comes down to communication. But no, for the most part, when it comes to orgasm for women, gotta keep consistent. It's about the long game, staying consistent, and then letting their orgasm build with consistent stimulation.
And for the guys who come too quickly through premature ejaculation, people who maybe it's a psychological issue, maybe it's an issue with blood pressure, medication they're on, whatever the cause may be. I mean, it's nothing to be embarrassed about, and they should go and speak to a doctor. There's Viagra and things like that. Where do you see problems for men who suffer with premature ejaculation? Maybe they think, I would love to do this, but I can't maintain hard to give her the sex she deserves. But there's plenty of like oral stuff they can do. There's plenty of other kinds of sex that they can do, massages and goddess baths, as Kenneth Play goes into his book, and all these sorts of things. Yeah. But why do men put so much pressure on them, and how do you work with them to kind of alleviate the premature issues that some men may face?
Yeah. So one of the things that guys can run into when they have early ejaculation is they'll get embarrassed by it, and they won't really, once they come early, they get scared and they get embarrassed and they feel beat up about themselves. And now they can't focus on their partner anymore because they're like, oh man, I did it again. Like I'm a piece of shit. And then let me just walk away, and they're not paying attention to their partner. So there's not necessarily anything wrong with orgasming quickly, right? Because most of us don't need your penis to come. It's fine. And honestly, sometimes it can be flattering. It can be like, oh my God, I'm so hot. I'm that hot that I made you come that quick. So you can even, you can bring that into the equation. You can be like, oh my God, damn baby, you're in that outfit. And I couldn't handle it. And then go back to work on her. And if she does like penetration, fucking use a dildo, right? Like you can still make sure that she's having a good time. And there are things that can be done for premature ejaculation too. So it's a mixture of a lot of different things, right? So maybe it's a neurological thing. That's actually the most common, and is that there are some people who are just wired to orgasm more quickly than other people. And so that can feel really frustrating when they see their friends who, can go for, 20 minutes without an issue. And then these guys are like, man, why does this always happen? Guess what? It's your biology. is okay, and we can actually work with your biology, and still we can sustain your ability to last longer, but you're going to have to work at it. It kind of sucks. Like for me, I told you I look like a tomboy, so I go to the gym and I have to lift weights to get an ass. That's the only way I'm going to get an ass. I decided I wanted one, so I go to the gym every day,
Deadlifts.
And so deadlifts, yeah, you get it,
Yep.
Ian. So if you decide that this is something that you want to do, you can make peace with that and go, okay, well, this is my body. Don't just hate your body, right? Because there are some people where they'll be like, God damn it. Like, I'm just this way. This sucks. There's nothing that can be done about it. There are things that you can do. Number one, the most effective tool is edging. Do you know much about edging?
Yeah, you build up to the point and then back away.
Yeah, definitely. This can take a lot of practice, though. So it is annoying for people in a culture where we're just we have deadlines, we have things to do, we have kids that we got to feed, we have bills we got to pay, yada yada. When it comes to prolonging your ability to ejaculate, you would have to practice edging for like 30 days alone consistently, and then try to do it with your partner. Wait, hold on. Let me re-say that. So masturbate alone for 30 days using edging, right? Consistently. And then from there, try to have sex with your partner, and then do that for another 30 days where you're edging in the bedroom with your partner, right? So this is going to be a long, slow, drawn out thing. And that feels annoying to a lot of people where they don't want to work for it. But again, like me, flat ass girl, I got to go to the gym. If you want to prolong this, it is something, if you want to prolong your ejaculation, you can, but it's going to take intention. It's going to take some help. And if you're having a hard time doing it on your own, you can reach out to somebody like me. I really like being able to walk people through this, because sometimes people, they just like the concept of edging, like you can look it up. You can look it up on the internet. And then when they try doing it themselves, they're like, but wait, my body is still really excited, and I don't sometimes it's not as easy as just looking it up. So if you need help walking through this, I can do that.
Because I think that would help so many people, that it doesn't have to be that way. That, I was lucky that, when I've been single for a long time, so I have a very, very big right forearm, shall we say. But I got to know my body, and I knew where I could slow down and change things up. And because I was so in my head, I kind of learned all these different techniques. But a lot of guys are maybe they don't want to take that chance, or maybe they've never been introduced or even know about these techniques. And I think one thing I found was, since I got the COVID chunk, I put on a lot of weight over COVID. I split up with a partner just before it. And I kind of forgotten the kind of stuff that I like. Now there's been a lot of masturbating and a lot of stuff like that. Probably the first time I've ever said this in the podcast. But do you think that's what a lot of guys need to do? Is go back to basics by themselves, lie back, see what they like, play with speed, sensations? Because it might be in one of your videos where you were talking about guys maybe grip it too hard, and then they can't get the same feeling from a female's pussy. So, they need to do it themselves, and we don't know ourselves enough to really basically get better at sex because we don't really understand ourselves, never mind our partners.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. In order to really be better lovers, if we take the time to really understand the intricacies of the things that work for us, that will enable us to be better in the bedroom. So yes, there are guys where they will get themselves off with this really intense death grip, and then when they see their partners, they can't orgasm anymore. So what I recommend to people who do that is to use a masturbation toy. So like a pocket pussy. It's a little silicone device where it makes it, you can't grip your penis too hard because it's slippery. It's like the slippery thing. So I recommend using one of those. masturbating, in different ways, trying to just go slower. Or, if you always masturbate using porn, listen to erotica, or, look at pictures, or, something. Just kind of change things up so that you can have some variety.
And are there things like, like no FAP, where it's like no masturbating for 30 days, or, do these things work? Or do you find edging to be one of the better techniques to kind of to let a guy understand and kind of dial back the sensitivity? So it's not just I lost control, that happens. You kind of understand the warning signs, and you can
Yeah.
kind of switch up, because there's plenty. You can go back to kissing, you can go back to going down, you can go back to whatever it is, change positions to give yourself that kind of break. But do you think edging is the best sort of self-improvement, the sort of skill development hack for guys?
I think that it's definitely one of them. And you brought up no fap. So no fap is like, the concept of that is like going to go on, like trying to go on a crash diet. And then when you get off of the diet, then you just binge everything because you haven't been eating, or you haven't been eating sensibly. Whereas the most sustainable way to actually lose weight is to just eat in a way that is sustainable long term. So like the 80-20 rule, which is what a lot of people who are like into health and fitness, which is 80% of your foods, you make them good, right? They're whole grains, or they're vegetables and their meats, what have you. And then 20% can be whatever the fuck you want. It can be pizzas, it can be shakes. And the reason that is a good approach is because it's sustainable. It's something that people can do over time. Whereas no fap is like, it's extreme. It's extreme. And I think it actually sets people up for failure. I also feel like America sets people up for failure when it comes to like things like alcohol, right? We don't teach moderation with alcohol. We teach like don't ever drink, and then when you go to college, it's you binge drink. So I think that by teaching this moderate approach with masturbation, which edging I would say is like kind of like a moderate approach. You can just kind of like lightly touch yourself every single day and just kind of enjoy that sensation and then go about your day. It doesn't necessarily have to lead to orgasm. It doesn't have to, it may not like create any negative habits, because you're kind of like slowly you're slowly creating your ability to explore yourself.
What's your opinions on using, like, if you're introducing more things like taking away somebody's sight with blindfolds, restraining somebody, how, because Kenneth, in his book, he was talking about how he had actually used a whip on somebody, but every time they doubted themselves. And, he used it as a kind of, it was the idea of you're not just doing it for pain, you're using it to kind of, to bring them up, but you're also using it as a kind of, he was dominating them if they doubted themselves. And he was using these in these really kind of really genius kind of ways, and it's like, whoa, that's such a good idea. It's like you're giving them this sexual pleasure, but you're also building them up. You don't need to be degrading and doing whatever. But what if we are doing these things and we step over the line? It could be something really bad. It could be like you spit on them and they go, oh, fuck you, disgusting, and don't want to see you again. Or it could be something, but you still think, okay, I might have. Now with like the Me Too movements, the focus on people being like misbehaving is probably a general term, but the kind of things I mean. But how do we dial back? How do we apologize? How do we make sure that can these things be saved? How do we talk to a partner if we fuck up in that sense? Does it depend on the nature of it, or How do we have that conversation and say, look, sorry, but I know I did wrong? How do we then move on from it? What kind of work would you do with somebody when you do whatever it is? I suppose it depends on the action, but
yeah, it definitely depends on the actions, and it depends on the coupleship specifically, but genuinely to just apologize to them, to just say like, oh man, I am so sorry, and I'm so sorry that happened, and then ask them like, what can I make it up to you? What can I do to make you feel safe again? What can I do to eradicate that? But the best way of dealing with the best way to deal with that is preventative, right? You don't want to, this is after, this is like cleanup after you fucked up, right? Instead, you want to be preventative, which by asking things like, hey, like what we talked about earlier, by saying, hey baby, do you want me to spank you right now? Do you want me to like hold you down? By testing those things out, I think that's the best way, rather than trying to clean up the damage.
It's like getting the horse back in after it's bolted into the stables. Because I think everybody watched 50 Shades of Grey. Terrible movie for the dialogue, but everybody watched it for the sex.
I didn't watch it.
You're lucky. And it also gives BDSM a bad reputation because it doesn't portray a true kind of, like he basically pushes in and he's kind of forced, and everybody's like, oh, that means I can go do that to my partner. So they go and strike her, or they do whatever it is, and she goes, what the fuck? This is not, and I think that's the kind of things is we're not realizing there is a lot of benefit to these things, but they have to be agreed. They have to be slowly introduced. And, in that film, they're talking, she's like, no anal fisting. And where a lot of times it's, yeah, I like the idea of restraints, but I don't want all my limbs restrained. Okay, I like the idea of that, but can we try it first? It needs to be slowly introduced. And I think that's why it's great to have somebody like you, because you're giving these things, you're explaining what these things are in a very straightforward. No, you're not hiding it. You're saying what it needs to be done, so you don't feel awkward, you don't feel strange, and that you can fix what issues are having. What would you want people to take from this as a kind of go home message? I know we've kind of gone round a bit, but what do you want people to remember?
Yeah, I guess taking time to really get clear about what you want. And so really being able to, whether that is through masturbation or whether that is through journaling, but get clear about what you really want. And then when you try to relay this information to your partner, do it in a way that is specific. So not just, I want you to dominate me. Say specifically, I want you to tie me down, and I want you to spank me. Those things seem really hot to me. So those are really the best ways to kind of get what you want in the bedroom.
And for people, I mean, I'd love to have you back on and do a round 2 and really go into specifics, but for how can people follow you? How can we find your website? How can we find your social media? How can we connect on this amazing journey you're going on?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter. I'm at my sex coach. So MYSEX coach, COACH. And I am I just had a YouTube channel that was torn down, so I'm working on building it back up again. YouTube to be continued with my, but my Pornhub account is up. So you can just, you can Google Watch Girls Watch, because the show is called Watch Girls Watch Porn. So my account is called Watch Girls Watch on Pornhub, because Watch Girls Watch Porn was too long.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, Try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.